Hey y'all, it's Bethany here. Welcome back to my channel, Bethany Brings Books. So I'm excited to do this video. It is a tag. I have been tagged in quite a few BookTube videos lately, like three, I think at least three. So I'm working on filming those and getting them uploaded. This is the Girl Scout cookie tag. I was tagged in this by Anne over at In Search of Wonder, and this is really a fun tag, and I'm just excited to get started. So I honestly have not eaten very many different types of Girl Scout cookies. I've eaten what's the ones with coconut? I think they're on here. Samoas, and maybe one other kind. I've not eaten a lot. I've only eaten like a handful of different kinds. We were not always big on buying Girl Scout cookies. You know, we would buy them occasionally if they were outside Walmart or somewhere. A lot of these, I have no idea what they are, but I'm going to do the tag anyway. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stormy's over here wanting me to pet her. Stormy, can you say hey? Say hey. Thank you, Anne, for tagging me. I am excited to do this. So, I have my prompts written here. The first prompt is Trefoils, and I do not know if I'm saying that correctly. I don't even know what they are. I should have looked these up to see what they are. But a classic novel you love. And as I've been talking on here lately, I am just really getting into my classic era, as everybody likes to use that term now. But I really am coming into the world of classics more than ever, and I've been reading more than ever, reading them more than ever, and so I have just been loving it. My list of classics that I've read is still pretty short, so we're just going to go with one of the classics that I recently read, and that is Little Women. This I absolutely adored. It is such a beautiful story. So I just loved all the characters, Marmee, the sisters, everything that's packed into here, the wisdom, so many good things in this book. I loved it so much, and yeah, that's a classic that I really loved. The next one is Lemon Ups, a book you find inspiring. So I thought about this for just a little bit, and this book came to mind. This is Becoming Elizabeth Elliot. This is by Elizabeth Vaughn, and this is the authorized biography of Elizabeth Elliot's early years. I read this back in 2021, I believe, and I absolutely loved this book. It was such an encouragement to me after I had lost my husband. Like, I think when I read it, I had lost my husband maybe 7 or 8 months before I read this. And so it was just reading her story of what she went through and how she walked that road of widowhood, and she walked it several times. You know, she was a widow twice in her life, and and she raised a daughter in the middle of all that, and she went and continued to spread the gospel and work for the kingdom of heaven. And this story just encouraged me so much. It was my favorite book of 2021, and I would highly recommend anyone who is interested in reading about Elizabeth Elliot and her life. She was a missionary in the 50s and 60s. Her husband and several other missionaries were killed during a mission trip in Ecuador, and it made world news then. It was a huge headline in that day, and I've followed her life over the past years, you know, like through my late teens and early adulthood, and just over the years I've read her books and just been very interested in her life, and I find her so inspiring. So this one, definitely a book that I find inspiring. And I wanted to throw this out there. There is a sequel to this, or I guess this would be considered volume 1, volume 2. This is her later years. I haven't read this yet. I'm really looking forward to reading it, hopefully in the next month or two. But I just wanted to mention that. Number 3 is S'mores, a comforting book. what came to my mind immediately is this is a bit funny and it might seem a bit silly, but Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew for me is such a comfort read. There's so much nostalgia, so much just reminiscing when I read these. I read them over and over as a kid. There's just something, I don't know what it is about Nancy Drew that just takes me back to my happy place and just so many good memories. It's just, I don't know, it's just cozy. I always thought, oh, what fun it would have been to be Nancy Drew, who she like lives off her father's money. He's always paying for her to go on all these trips, apparently, because, you know, it never says where she gets the money from. But she's traveling the world and solving mysteries, and she's just doing all this stuff instead of getting a real job. Just sounded fun. Anyway, this is just, I love this. Like, this series, this class, especially the classic one, these are just so cozy. And this one I read over and over again. This was like one of my favorites in the classic series. The Hidden Staircase is actually the second book in the series, and I've kind of worn it out, as you can see. I loved this one. So yeah, this is definitely a comforting book for me. Adventurfuls, an adventurous book. So I'm kind of going to just show y'all this series. When I was thinking about adventurous books, this series came to mind, the Freddie and Grace Mystery Series by Pepper Basham. Right now it is a trilogy: the Mistletoe Countess, the Cairo Curse, and the latest, the Juliet Code. Pepper has said that she hopes to write several more in the series, at least one or two, I think she said. So I'm really hoping she does. But this series definitely is an adventure. Grace, it follows Grace and Freddie, and in the first book they are united in a marriage of convenience, and that follows, the first book just follows them getting to know each other and learning how to adapt to life as a married couple, but also solving a mystery that comes along. It's set in the early 1900s in England, and yeah, it's just really fun. I really like the first one a lot. And then the second and third follow Freddie and Grace on their honeymoon, and they're just solving mysteries and getting caught up in more adventures. The second one is in Egypt, and this one is in Italy, I believe. Italy, yes. And there's just always some kind of an adventure following Grace around. Like, always. She's always getting into trouble. She's always finding herself caught up in a mystery or some kind of trouble, escapade, something. She seems like an older version of Anne Shirley. She's just delightful and kind of naive and young with a lot to learn, but also just fun watching her and Freddie, her husband, as they learn about life together. And as he's older and more mature, so he teaches her a lot, and she brings out his fun side. So the dynamic is just fun. And if you're looking for a good series with some fun Agatha Christie-ish vibes, this is it. And this is a Christian fiction series. Samoas, a book that blends two or more genres. I kind of had a difficulty with this because I wasn't really sure. I don't know. I feel like most of the books I read lean towards one genre. You know, like they don't really blend genres. And I'm sure there are some that I just didn't think of. But one that I did think of that I've actually was just, when I was reading it the other day, I actually was thinking about how it seemed like a nice mixture of two different genres. And it is actually a new release by Lynn Blackburn, and it is called Never Fall Again. It's the first book in her, I believe it's called the Gossamer Falls series. And I'll put a picture up here. I am reading the ARC and on NetGalley, and I'm loving it, y'all. Oceana recently was talking about how much she just has been loving Lynn Blackburn, and I am very picky about the suspense authors that I read. Really, the main suspense author that I've ever read and really, really liked is Terry Blackstock. And so I haven't read a ton of other suspense. The ones that I've tried, I just haven't liked. There's been other popular suspense authors that I've tried and just did not care for. So because Oshina talked about this so much, I decided to pick up I decided to try one of her books, and I requested this one on NetGalley, and I was approved. And I have to say, I am loving this. At this point, it is not super suspenseful. I believe it is classified as a suspense book, but at this point, there is a kind of a bit of a mystery going on. Something has happened. There's been a fire, and they're investigating it to see what's going on, like who set the fire and stuff. But there's also so much character building. We're seeing some of the greatest characters. The two main characters are already, I'm like 30% in, I think, and they've already like developed feelings for each other, but not in a weird way. Like, I don't know, it feels like not just, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, it feels like not just suspense, but also like contemporary fiction, because at this point we're seeing the main guy character, we're seeing his family, his cousins are in the picture, and we're seeing like their family gatherings and all the sibling cousin dynamic, and just the fun interactions between them. We're seeing good communication between the main guy and girl and female character, and I'm not going to talk about the book itself a lot as far as what's happening, but it feels like a nice blend. Like, there's suspense, but that's not, at this point in the book, that's not been the main point of the story, and it's very light so far, and it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels like a nice blend of genres to me, like suspense and, I don't know what it would be, I guess contemporary fiction, contemporary Christian fiction, I don't know, but I really like it so far. I'm really liking it. I love the dynamic of like the huge family and the cousins and their interactions. It just reminds me of growing up with all of my cousins and all the fun we had together growing up. There's that. Dos, either a book you love that everyone seems to hate, or a book you hate that everyone seems to love. I'm going to do one for both of these. So first one, a book that I love that everyone seems to hate. I'm going to say The Cul-de-sac War by Melissa Ferguson. And this, I would say, particularly in the Christian fiction booktube community, I think overall it's a popular book, fairly popular, but in the Christian fiction booktube community, I saw a lot of people who actually didn't like it, and a lot of people say that they don't really like her characters or her writing style. But I have to say, I love Melissa Ferguson's books. I read her first one and I was hooked, and I read like I haven't read her fourth one, but I read her first three back to back, and well, the third one I had to wait a while before it came out, but her first three that she published, I loved. They were hilarious. I love her writing style. She's funny. Her voice is her characters are hilarious. So I really like this book. I know Celestria does like her books. You know, I've heard a lot of other of my booktube friends that don't like her books. So this is one that I really like that some other people don't. And then a book that I didn't particularly love that other people really like. This one is, y'all, this one is it's hard for me to say. This one is one that literally everybody I hear talk about it adores it, except for Holly from Lovely Day with Holly. Me and her both don't really care for this book. She talked about it in one of her videos. And that is The Blue Castle by Ellen Montgomery. I say that with the utmost respect for everyone who loves this book. I know so many people just adore it. I didn't like it really, honestly. And I hate to say that because I love Ellen Montgomery. I don't even have a copy of this. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I read this, like the ebook. And I will say this. I want to reread it because when I read it, I went into it with super high expectations because I had just heard everyone rave about it, and I had heard people say it was their favorite by Ellen Montgomery and that they liked it even more than the Anne series, and it was deeper and all of these things about it. So I was like reading it. I kept waiting for it to get great, kept waiting for it to get great. I was like just waiting. Every chapter I read, I was waiting for it to just blow my mind. And I came to the end and I was like, okay, that wasn't great. And it took me, I will say the first few chapters, the main character got on my nerves. Like, her internal dialogue got on my nerves. She was kind of whiny. But yeah, I want to reread it because I did go into it with such high expectations that I think maybe if I reread it, and I was reading it, kind of reading through it fast too, because I was like, okay, I want to see what's going to happen next. When is this going to get good? So yeah, I feel like if I reread it, I would rate it higher. And I would enjoy it more. So I definitely want to reread it eventually. So then the last book that I'm going to mention is one of my all-time favorite books. There are several books I could mention, many books I could mention, but the one that comes to my mind pretty much anytime someone says my all-time favorite book, this book comes to my mind, is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I read this last year and I was absolutely blown away. This just so captivated my interest, so intriguing. It really inspired me to read more gothic fiction. Like, just, I don't know, the gothic vibes were just, they grabbed me, and it was just, I don't know how to explain this book. It has stuck with me ever since. It has stuck with me probably more than just about any fiction book I've ever read. So yeah, this is one of my favorites of all times. I do want to say, whenever I talk about this book, I do want to mention that some language in it that I don't like. So I want to give that as a maybe a warning or whatever. But the book itself, just the plot and everything, is written so well. But other than that, I think overall it's pretty clean, other than it does have that language in it that I don't care for. So that is a warning if you decide to read this. But it's scattered throughout. It's not heavy, but it is scattered throughout. Honestly, you might think this is crazy, but when I have my own personal copy of a book, if it's one like this that I would keep and read, at times I have just took my little marker and my permanent marker and like highlighted through the words. I know some people probably think that's crazy, but that's just the thing. I'm like, you know what? If I don't want to read the language, and I want to reread this again, I can just permanent marker the words, and I don't have to read them. So hey, that's an idea for something you can do. But anyway, this is a great book. Lastly is Tagalongs Tag, a fellow booktuber, and I don't know who else done this. I did not take the time to look it up, but I'm going to tag Holly from Lovely Day with Holly, Bailey from Bailey's Bookshelf. I know Bailey has not posted in a while, but Bailey, I really want you to post again whenever you get the chance. So if you get the chance to film, then you can do this tag. You have a tag right here all ready for you to do. So anyway, I know Bailey has a lot going on, and if she doesn't get a chance to do this tag, then that is perfectly fine. I'm just going to tag several people in, and if you can do it, you can do it. If you can't, you can't. And it's okay. It's all good. And if you've already done it, it's okay. And then lastly, I'm going to tag Miriam from Miriam Elizabeth Reads. Thank you for tagging me, Anne, and I'm going to put the name of the original creator of this tag in my description box. I do not remember who it was, but I will put that in my description box. Anyway, guys, thank y'all for watching, and can't wait to see y'all again next time. Bye-bye.